I'm Myrus.
And I'm Summer, and welcome to Lockdown Lounge,
where we show you how to make our favorite happy hour cocktails from home. Hi, Summer.
Hi, Myrus. How are you?
I'm good, honey. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so I'm really excited because, I need a little Lockdown Lounge in my life to bring me some life. So
that's what we're going to do today. And we're excited about today because why?
We're doing sake.
Yeah.
I feel like I should do like some type of like music in the background, John, for,
I've tried that. I tried that with scotch and it failed miserably.
Oh yeah, Scatman.
That's a good song though.
Okay, anyway, so we're doing sake, and though Myrus and I both really like sake, we are not experts. So we brought someone who isn't quite an expert, but knows what they're talking about, especially more than me and Myrus. And this person is my husband. So welcome to the show, Marcel.
Marcel!
Hello. What's up, Myrus?
Hi, Marcel. How are you, boo?
I'm doing well, surviving the lockdown like everyone else with a lot of booze.
That's right.
What we're drinking today is sake, which I'm very excited to talk about because I think people should be drinking more sake. It's well priced, it's delicious, and it doesn't give you a nasty hangover, unlike drinking a bunch of red wine. And funny enough, it's usually a higher proof, so more bang for your buck. So sake is actually an umbrella term. It basically means any kind of alcoholic beverage. So a spirit, a beer, or a wine could all be considered a sake. What we're going to be drinking today is called Nihonshu, which is what everyone thinks of whenever we're drinking sake. And people get a little bit intimidated, like they would get intimidated by, if they don't know a lot about wine or if they don't drink a lot of wine, it can be kind of, it seems like a steep, it seems like an intimidating thing to get into. But just drink more of it and you'll be less intimidated. Today.
So the more you drink, the more confident you get, Marcel?
Absolutely. That's one of the perks of drinking.
That's right.
What's sake made out of?
Oh, yes. So sake is made out of rice. So even though when you say sake, you think of like rice wine, that's what people have a tendency to equate it to. Wine is technically just like fermented sugars that are found in fruits, whereas since sake is made from rice, it's a grain, so it's actually closer to beer than it is to wine because it's fermentation of the starches that are found in the rice. And also delicious.
So guys, I'm a big Food Wars fan. It's a anime show, if you know it. And in the show, Soma and all his classmates, one of his classmates is like a rice specialist. So she makes this like rice milk, but it says like 99 proof on it. And there's this funny scene where the kids are getting like twisted off of this rice stuff. And they have to put like a little caption at the bottom for like younger kids who are watching their show. Like, this is really just juice, guys. Like, it's so funny.
Hi, Yukihiro-kun.
Ah, domo. あ、この濁り、手書きのラベルが貼られた一升瓶。
お米から作ったただのジュースよ。
へえ。
But continue.
That was no, that's actually what I had to say for like my broad strokes of sake. Of course, you can be way more in depth about it because, like wine, there are a bunch of different varietals of rice that are grown specifically for making sake. So if you want a certain flavor profile or if you want a certain cleanness or to it, that's actually one of the three things that go into making sake. The rice, the kind of water that's used to distill it, and basically polishing, which is how much you wash the rice. I wanted to go for something that has very low polish, which is a Igori, and that's going to be the last time I try to embarrass myself by speaking Japanese. So, I swear, for the rest of this, it's going to be nothing but layman's terms because I've really exhausted my vocabulary. So, what I have here today is called cloudy sake, which basically means, if you can see, it's unfiltered. Oh, it's a green bottle, so there might be a little bit of freak out right there. But if you can see, there's a bunch of sediment at the bottom. that is basically a bunch of stuff that would normally get filtered out if you're used to clear sake, but I like the cloudy sake. It gives you much more of like a milky mouthfeel, like an unfiltered wheat beer or something akin to that. And every sake has its own different temperature and serving style. This one is meant to be served chilled, but it's really down to your taste preference. What you're supposed to do is drink it based on the season or the type of sake, but I'm feeling very like medium cheese pizza today, so I'm just going to go with room temperature.
Okay, so is this a sweet sake or a dry sake?
So this one is going to be sweet. Usually the unfiltered ones are sweeter. There actually is an index on the back called the sake meter value, or the SMV. It ranges, like the higher the number is, the more dry it is. The lower the number is, the more sweet it is. This one is -30. So this is going to be very sweet.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. So I'm learning some new stuff every day.
I'm looking at my bottle right now trying to find my sweetness.
Usually they put it on the back of the label there because they want people to be less intimidated. They want people to drink more sake.
So the question is, like, if we're going to serve this, do we shake it since it's cloudy, or do we just pour it?
Shake it.
Shake it?
You want all that flavor in the bottom to be evenly distributed.
So I'm shaking this, and I'm going to make my cocktail out of the sake that Marcel chose. Marcel decided that he just wants to drink his sake straight up, so I'm just going to pour him some sake.
Little cup.
Oh, it's like pouring really milky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's his cocktail. My cocktail is gonna be called the Far East Side. It's actually a take on a Far East Side because I didn't have all the ingredients for this. Like there's, what is it, shinso? Some type of leaf that you're supposed to have, which I didn't do. And then there's this particular recipe that I'm using is a take on one that was, it's a modification of a modification of a cocktail. So it's basically like Summer's take on a Far East Side. So what you're gonna do is we're gonna build it in a shaker glass, and I'm not doing the Babish format, so I'm gonna have to you're gonna have to trust me that it's down here, okay? So it's gonna be.
I got something for once in my life, so I'm gonna run and get that while you make your cocktail.
We get the ding up.
So it's gonna be 2 ounces of sake. And look at this. Look how cloudy this is. It looks like horchata, honestly, which is rice milk. So it fits, right? And then this actually has some tequila in it. You know, I love me some Espolón tequila. This only has 1/2 ounce of tequila in it, so I'm gonna go ahead and put 1/2 ounce of tequila. And crap, I forgot something too. Per usual, but I don't have the glass to pour this into.
You know what?
So my stage hand is gonna go give me a glass.
I got downgraded from husband to stage.
Downgraded from co-star to stagehand.
My bad. I'm sorry. So this I'm putting Domaine, which is the ginger liqueur, and this is I'm gonna put 3/4 of an ounce of this. And then the last ingredient that I'm going to put in, you come in. See, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Is fresh lemon juice. I have put some lemon juice in here. It's only going to be 1/4 of an ounce, just to cut some of that sweetness. And then I have some ice. And this is actually going to be stirred, not shaken. So I'm stirring, stirring, stirring. I don't have a bar spoon, so this isn't going to be as smooth as I would normally be able to shake. Stir. I'm a professional, I swear. It doesn't look like I am because of my amateur stirring, but I am. It's hard to do this without an actual bar spoon. So you just get it chilled. And then I just dumped some ice so I can use this as a strainer because I don't have a strainer. Then just strain it into a chilled martini glass. or it's supposed to be a coupe glass, but I don't have that yet. So we're just gonna use this. And then Marcel and I have ours. So we're just gonna pumpai.
Oh, we can't.
Nice.
But I just want to taste it because. Ooh.
It's good?
Ooh.
Good.
That's good.
Let me see what you did. Dress that up. That's lovely.
Okay, to you, Myrus, and then we can all drink together.
Alrighty, so guys, I chose Kakakan sake. It is a very known sake in the restaurant industry. If you go to any hibachi grill, any Chinese, Japanese spot to eat, even if you go to some of your local restaurants, Kakakan sake is well known. It blends with a lot of good things. Even if you look on the back of the label, there are several cocktail recipes on the back, which is fun. So what I'm gonna make for you guys today, I'm gonna make a pomegranate passion-fruit martini. So that's a little fun for me. So you get your sake, you get one of your vodkas. I brought back Stoli. You guys know how I love it. So I'm gonna make it with that today. I'm gonna do a little triple sec, and I'm gonna do a little bit of pomegranate juice. So what you do is you take your martini. I'm gonna get down maybe in my beverage form a little bit so y'all can see a little better. You take your shaker tin and you fill yourself with ice. No spills today, I hope. But I know John is watching to see if I spill. See, I got a new scooper to try and like be classy about it, and it's not working at all. Okay, that's enough. I try to switch it up and it just fails every time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my Stoli and do about an ounce of that. And I'm gonna do about half an ounce of sake and a half ounce of triple sec, guys. Alrighty. And then I'm gonna add my pomegranate juice, which was on sale today. They had regular, but I was like, oh, this passion fruit pomegranate sounds fun. So I wanted to mix up the recipe just a little bit with that. So I'm gonna add about 2 ounces of the pomegranate juice. And I am also going to stir, guys, but I actually have a bar spoon.
She ain't got no jigger, but she got
I don't have a jigger, but I have a bar spoon.
Yes.
So what Summer wants to do is this right here, guys. See this motion? Yeah. Oh, you so jealous right now. That's all right.
Whatever. Take your spoon.
So then I take my nice bougie bar spoon out. Now put my top on, and I grab my martini glass and I strain, guys.
So can I be a guest star on her end next time? I can bring a jigger.
Okay.
And then I'm just gonna add a nice maraschino cherry because that's all the garnish I got in the house. I did not feel like peeling nothing today.
So it looks like a Cosmo, like a picture of
It does
Cosmo.
kind of, yeah, like a sake Cosmo. I can see why you would say that.
Yeah.
But it probably, the taste is probably definitely different with that pomegranate juice, that passion fruit pomegranate juice. So here we go, guys. Let's do it. Cheers. Beak. Let's see. Oh, yeah. This is good. Wow. I like that.
I was surprised, like, so this has sake and tequila, and those two mixing, I was like, what? But it's actually really good. And the color, it's like so cloudy and milky looking. I'm gonna have Marcel help me drink this because
our baby's not feeling well, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Rule is you're not supposed to you're not supposed to pour your own sake.
So he's gonna pour a little sake in there. That's good.
I heard sake's good for medicinal purposes.
You know,
Am I just talking crap?
You know what?
I mean, whiskey's good for medicinal purposes.
True.
Gin is good for medicinal purposes.
I'm sure there's a lot more buffer and goodness in sake between you and the like alcohol that'll straight kill you. So yes, it is good for you.
I believe so. We're gonna go with that, guys.
I'm an expert, you know.
Okay. So the three of us also have been in the restaurant industry together, folks. And the topic we picked for today was tip culture. I know you've been waiting for this one. Yeah, we're gonna get into it.
Yeah.
So who would like to go first?
So are we going, okay, so there's so much to cover with this topic.
There really is 20%. Like, we don't need to further complicate the issue here. So 20%, and if you tip less than that, then there is a circle of hell just for you. Read Dante's Inferno. Am I allowed to swear?
No, we're gonna bleep that out, but it's obviously
You can see he's very passionate about this.
okay. So yeah, Marcel's obviously
How much sake have you had?
I didn't have them with your promise, but he's obviously very passionate about this topic, and it's because people do not know how to tip. They think, oh, especially behind the bar, like, oh, $1 per drink. No, especially if it's like a labor-intensive cocktail, like a mojito or something with multiple ingredients, like this sake, the Far East side, like something that's intricate, and you're only tipping $1 per drink, and you would give us $1 for a beer. Like, that's not a good enough tip for the amount of effort we're putting in. And oh, well, you're only pouring a beer or you're only pouring a glass of wine. No, we're serving you. You know, you go to a bar because of the service and the environment. You don't go to the bar because of the drink. Because if you were going to the bar for a glass of wine or a beer, like if you just wanted a glass of wine or a beer, you would go to the liquor store and buy it yourself and pour it yourself.
Which is what a lot of you learned during this quarantine. A lot of people have spoken about appreciating their bartenders and servers now because they had to sit home and make their own doggone drink.
Yes.
So remember what it was like in quarantine without us when you go to the bars now, guys.
Yeah, and it's never, I'm sorry, like, I will accept 18% because, like,
I will too.
I think it's never appropriate not to tip someone because you need to keep this in mind. Servers and bartenders don't make like a living wage. We make about, in Maryland, it's probably about $4 an hour is what our base is. We survive and depend on tips. So that's why we provide you service. Like, I understand people who are like, well, the service was really bad, so I don't want to tip that person. But there are multiple factors behind what you perceive as bad service. So it could be the kitchen was delayed. It's not your server's fault. It could be that they got sat with 5 tables at once and they're stretched really thin. That's not your server's fault. So I think it's never appropriate not to pay, which is what you're doing. You're paying your server for their service. I don't think it's ever appropriate not to pay them for that. But you can tip less for bad service. So generally, like, I think you can tip less for bad service. If somebody's having really bad service and they tip and they only want to tip 15%, I will see that and be like, okay, well, I was stretched really thin. They didn't get the best service. I'm just thankful that they tipped me at all. However, what I don't like are these verbal tips. You can keep your verbal tip. That's the person who comes in and they're kikiing it with you and they're like, oh, you're so great. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna ask for you. I'm gonna come see you again. Everything was so great. You're a phenomenal server. And then they'll actually write it on the check, like, thanks for the service. It was awesome. And then they tip you like 10% or less, or like 15% or less. Like, if I gave you such great service, why isn't your tip reflecting that? Why are you verbally tipping me? I cannot pay my bills with a verbal tip. You know, like, you can keep your verbal tip and you can, like,
you can keep your verbal tip, you can keep your written tip. That kind of just goes into like another topic that bothers me. Writing stuff on the check, on the tip line, when you want to be rude or insulting to somebody, but you don't have the guts, the chutzpah, the testicular fortitude to say it to their face. Because
Testicular fortitude.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I have seen many despicable written tips that make me want to smack somebody. One in particular said, "Great service, but I don't tip black people." Now, you know, they ran for the hills. They wrote that and ran out. Because if it wasn't my table, but I saw that and I wanted to hit them. I wanted to I was like, I'm getting fired. They're lucky it wasn't my table. I'd have ran after them and got fired.
I feel like people will always find a reason not to tip.
Guys, what do y'all think about that?
Oh, that's just someone being foolish. They had no intention of giving any real money, and they're trying to hide behind it. Like, I don't even know what to say to that. That's just.
I don't even have the guts to say something to my face. One lady told me, sorry, couldn't tip. I got 2 kids, so now my kids I got 2 kids too. So now they can't eat.
So this is my thing. If you can afford to tip, you should not be going out. People don't realize that your dining experience, what you're going to spend does not just end at your check. When you are deciding whether or not you're going to go out to dinner or out to a bar, you need to decide whether or not you can afford to appropriately tip your server or your bartender. If you know you only got $50 to spend, you do not sit there and order up to $48.99 or $49.99 and think you're covered. That means if you have $50 to spend, that means you only have $40 of money to order with, because 10%, you need to make sure that $10 goes to your server.
I've had to wait on many people as long as I've been doing this, who just did not have the money to tip and would use whatever excuse. But really, I would have to say, for that reason alone, everyone should work in a restaurant and know what it feels like to work for tips. Then you'll really consider whether or not you're going to go out and tip, because the two of those should be just synonymous with each other. There is no going out for someone who works for tips and not tipping.
Because what kills me the most, y'all, and what kills all of us the most, is y'all get lackluster service at a lot of places, and y'all still go and spend y'all money, and those people still get a paycheck. Their check doesn't get cut if you get lousy service at the bank, if you get lousy service at H&M, if you get lousy service at the doctor's office. I've been in the emergency room and thought, this is horrible. I'm never coming back to this hospital. But all of those people got paid for working that night. Do you see what I'm saying there? Yes, somebody might be having a bad day. Yes, they might be busy, or yes, somebody might be just a bad worker. And on those factors, yes, I can understand you doing a survey. I can understand you talking to the manager. I can understand you putting in a complaint. I cannot fathom how you want to take money out of somebody's pocket.
But at the same time, what do you say to people who are like, well, a tip is gratuity? That's something that we're conveying to our server or bartender because we appreciate the service and the service.
But it's not.
That's just corporate spiel. That's just them trying to smooth over the rough waters of the frustration that comes up for working for money that isn't guaranteed.
And if we want to get into the actual culture of tipping, it's actually pretty racist.
Oh, well, please take it away.
Tipping started. I'm gonna say, if we want to go there on here, tipping started back when slaves first became free and we were trying to get jobs and all this other stuff. And the only couple of jobs for us was working the railroads, housekeeping, and serving at a restaurant, waitressing and butlering and stuff like that. And how restaurants cut their costs for not paying Black folks is they invented the tip service. So they can have a Black person in there, a Black waitress or waiter in there working the same hours, working hard. And they didn't even have the little money that we get nowadays, a little $3 or $4 an hour to cover taxes. They just made their tips.
Mm.
That's how messed up tipping actually is. It's actually a system that should have been changed a long time ago.
So do you actually think that we should move towards the living wage and just like get rid of tipping in the tipping system altogether?
Honestly,
I know how you feel, but I want to know how Myrus feels.
Honestly, I've seen it work both ways, depending on how someone runs their restaurant. All I'm going to say is I think that something needs to change. I don't know if going to hourly would work for every restaurant, but being a tip forward restaurant, it's out of the times now. It's like it's not this.
Especially in the days post-COVID.
Exactly.
It's completely different. How do you like? Exactly. I know how you feel, but I cut you off before you could say it.
I think that it needs to change, definitely. Do we need to abolish tipping altogether? I don't know, but it definitely needs to change. Something's got to change.
I definitely agree. Something needs to change. Going to a full hourly has its cons too, because then the question is, well, how much is the labor that you're doing really worth? Because you know, tipping is also sort of an initiative to boost your own sales, which boosts the sales of the restaurant. So it's a system that has worked for so long. I definitely do agree that. I'm going to argue
with you, Marcel. I love you, but I'm going to argue with you on that point as far as getting paid for the amount of work you do. I've seen jobs, and I'm not going to name jobs, and I'm not going to name names, where people sit at a desk watching YouTube all day and make $18 an hour.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say that their pay scale was not great.
They're sitting, chilling. Maybe they do a little bit of work, make sure their numbers are good so they look good to the board, but servers do way more work.
Another reason why everyone should work in a restaurant, because I don't think people have enough appreciation for how demanding that can be.
How hard.
I'm about to say, I don't care what restaurant you work at, you are working hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what restaurant you're working at.
And so then it just, like, that's where the question comes in. How much do you pay people who are willing to work that hard? And then, because right now they are basically free labor on the restaurant side, because they don't have to pay them much. Their wages are basically made up for by the people that come in and are willing to tip. And imagine if other companies were run that, customer service companies were run that way. Like if H&M were run that way. Like, oh, okay, so here's your purchase and 20% for the guy who stocks everything? No? Okay.
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
Yeah, it would be...
if you put tipping in any other job, it's insane.
Mm-hmm. I guess in an ideal world, I would love to see where gratuity was just that, gratuity, and it didn't make you dependent on it, but...
Europe?
Yes. I'm not quite sure about this, but don't they consider it an insult if you tip them there?
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, you don't tip in a lot of places in Europe. You don't tip because it's a career. They get basically a salary to serve. And if you do tip, it is a gratuity and it's appreciated. I haven't had anybody be offended by me tipping them when I was overseas, but it's appreciated because it's a gratuity. It's like just extra money. They don't rely on that. They don't depend on it. Like my livelihood depends on tips. If I don't get tipped, we ain't got this roof over our head if we don't get tipped. You know what I mean? So, but do I want to go to a living wage? It would depend on how you define a living wage, because I'm sorry, like $18, $19 an hour, while great, would be a pay cut from what I get for tips. You know what I mean?
That's the double-edged sword.
So it's a double-edged sword. It's guaranteed money, but it's less than your earning potential is limited by just having an hourly rate.
They would have to put that into a factor as far as how much you're working versus the hours that you work. So with a server and a bartender, it's difficult to get to 40 hours unless you're like working double shifts and yada, 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 and they're all your life. The average server bartender when they're full-time works, 30 hours maybe?
32-ish.
Okay. So if you're full-time, 32-ish. If you're part-time, like 15 to 16, 17. So I feel like they can up the the hourly because they're not paying people for 40-hour jobs. Does that make sense to you? What I'm saying? Instead of it being like the average 18, 19, I feel like if y'all were at like 25, I don't think that would be unheard of. Especially because of how much certain restaurants pull in from profit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what it is. The tipping system, the reason why restaurants like it so much is because customers are actually supplementing these incomes. So it's like, if you, even with tips, if you don't make minimum wage, the restaurant has to pay you enough to make minimum wage. So by them saying that, oh, servers and bartenders only, like you can pay them only $4, that's with the understanding that they will make minimum wage with tips. If they don't, you still have to pay them minimum wage. So I think restaurants like this system because they're getting cheap labor. Basically, we're like, there's times where I paid, like I've had a serving shift where I literally paid to come into work.
That's another thing that we need to talk about. Another reason why everyone needs to tip 20% is because you don't know what's going on in as far as how the restaurant distributes the tips. There are some places that do it very differently. There are some places that have something called tip out, which basically means all the money that you're giving to your server, your bartender, may not necessarily go to them. So some places do tip out based on the sales of your check. So if you are not tipping on your check, that server had to pay for you to eat.
Yeah.
And that is why, again, there's a level of hell just for you.
Okay, so I'm gonna get into a little more detail on that. So guys, say you had a $100 check, okay? And we're tipping out on sales. And what he means by tipping out is we have bussers, we have bartenders, we have hostess. They get part of our tips for their work as well. So we pay them to do those jobs, seating you, bussing your tables, wiping down stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So you came in and you had a $100 meal and you tipped $20 on your check. 20%, that's good. Let's say the tip out is 3%.
Of total sales, not just your tip. So it's not
Of total
3%,
sales.
It's not 3% of the $20, it's 3% of that $100. So if you don't tip, if you tip zero on that $100, I have to pay 3%.
So if we do 3%, guys, that means every $100 in sales, not what we make, in sales, in the food and drinks that we sell, $3 has to go to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually tipped me $17, and I gave $3 of those dollars to the host and the busser and the bartender or whoever it goes to. So our money gets cut that way. So imagine if you didn't tip at all on that $100. I still have to give $3 to the hostess and the bartender and the busser. So I actually paid a little bit for you to sit there.
Yep. And the same, and people who don't tip for to-go orders, especially now post-COVID, like restaurants are run on to-go and carry out and curbside and delivery food. You know how much work it is to take those orders? Like even if you do it online, like Uber Eats, the restaurant still gets that order written in on a tablet, and then we have to input it and make sure that all of your modifications are in correctly. Then we have to make sure that it's all wrapped correctly. We have to make sure your order is correct. We have to make sure that a driver is called for at the appropriate time. We have to make sure that they pick up the order in a timely manner. If they don't, we have to call to make sure that, you know, a driver can get assigned. And then you don't tip. Like, oh, well, I hate this when I take phone orders, which is basically I'm serving you just over the phone. I'm still packaging your food. I'm still taking your order. I'm still getting your food to you, especially curbside. I have to walk it out to you, and I'm on the phone with them. It's like, oh, would you like to leave gratuity for the staff? And you say, oh no, it's only takeout. So now you can just close it out. Like some people, not at my restaurant, but there are some restaurants where the to-goes go through the bar, which they do at my restaurant too, but they go through the bar and the bar has to tip out on to-goes. Luckily, like my establishment, we don't have to tip out on to-goes, but I know a restaurant in the area where the bartenders tip out on to-goes, and people don't tip on to-goes a lot, so they're paying a certain percentage for every single to-go order to, you know, and that is some crap. Like, why am I paying for you to get takeout? Why? I am working. Like, I am not taking a table. I actually, so at my restaurant, we don't get tables as bartenders when to-go orders are busy, because it is our responsibility to do the to-go orders. So I am giving up money at a table. Like, I will get tipped at a table. I'm giving that opportunity. It's an opportunity cost. I'm losing money to take your to-go order, and then you're going to say, well, you didn't do anything. It's a to-go order, so I'm not going to tip you. That pisses me off.
I get it.
Sorry.
And guys, we're not talking about like carryouts where the people make an hourly wage, like carryouts and Chipotle and all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's fine. The tip there, that can be like a little bit of a negotiate. That's when it's gratuity.
Yeah.
Those people make an hourly wage. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you order from these restaurants, we're not getting hourly for your takeout, man. So you gotta put something down. We're not asking you to put down crazy. Like, we know you're not dining in the restaurant. So say you did get $100 worth of food. I won't be mad at you if it's not $20, because you're not getting the dining experience. But 10 seems like reasonable to me. I don't need the whole 20.
I'm like, you can give me 5. If 5 is
just
better than 0.
Like $5. If you're spending like $100, if you're getting $100, you know how much $100 worth of food? That's a lot of work to put in, to make sure it's right, to make sure it's packaged right, get your condiments and your, like, you think it's not a lot? You come in and work our job. You think we're just pressing in numbers and stuff just pops out like the freaking Jetsons? Blurt me out, Tina.
I need to stop making concessions.
What's the wife's name on the Jetsons?
Jane, his wife.
Jane.
Yeah, Jane.
Jane. How she used to she used to whine and moan about putting in dinner, y'all, and just press a couple buttons and a whole chicken would come out. That's not how a restaurant works. In case you think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I was saying I need to stop making concessions. I'm trying to be really nice and understanding, but I agree with everything that Marcel said and Myrus said, like, about the amount. It should only be 20%, and it should be $10 on 100 at least. And I'm like, oh no, 5 is okay. Oh no, I can see 15. That's me trying to be understanding and be like, play devil's advocate. But what I want to say is, if you can't afford to tip like that, keep your cheap broke butt at home. And
if you can't afford a tip, we think you're a trash person.
Sorry.
Period.
Garbage.
You're a trash person.
Okay, so this is
like, we're gonna talk about you when you leave the restaurant like a dog. You're gonna, if you're okay with that, if you're okay, like, man, I don't give a doggone what these people say. I don't see them often. I'm gonna grab my food and go. Then you do to you, but I'm telling you now.
Also,
I'm dragging you.
Don't think that we don't talk about you. And if you regularly go to a restaurant, don't think that you won't get that reputation as someone who doesn't tip.
Especially since, like, I have people who literally like wrote 0 on the tip line for like a $50 check, a $70 check, then have the nerve to become like kind of regulars in the same week and coming back like day after day. I had somebody leave me 0 on a $50 check. He closed out, and then he opened another check, and then it was like a $60 check, left 0. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. And then he came in the next day. When I say he was the last on my list, I think it took me like 10 minutes to get to him, because I knew he wasn't going to tip me, and I knew I had opportunity costs. I knew that other people would. So I helped everybody else who I knew would potentially tip. I took out orders to curbside. I made service bar drinks. And then when I had nothing else to do, then I went to him. And that's because he was no longer a priority. I'm paying money to serve you. Like, I'm not even working for free at that point. I'm at a deficit to serve you. So I'm going to make sure that I can afford to pay that deficit by earning my money elsewhere.
Because you are not the one, baby. And you have nicknames. When you come in, we whisper, there go no tip Greg. There go no tip Susan. Like,
or $2, remember?
There go $2 Tommy. Like,
yeah.
all of y'all have names. talk about y'all like dogs. Y'all are trash to us. We smile and treat you good, but we hate you.
Especially those who are like, you know, like expecting to be hooked up or something, and then the tip doesn't reflect it.
You're the
I'm
worst.
charging you for every single, like, this is the thing. You can get a rum and, like, if you're that person who's asking to be like hooked up and you're not, the tip isn't reflecting that, I, as a bartender, have ways that I could ring certain things in. So like a server, because it has to go through service bar, they have to be quite specific about what you're ordering. So if you order a vodka cran at a table, they have to put vodka and then do the upcharge for cranberries so that the bar knows to add the cran. You come to the bar and you order a vodka cran, I can just charge you for the vodka because I know to put cran in it.
This is how the sausage shit's made, y'all.
Yeah. If I know, like, if you're one of those people who ask to be hooked up or expect to hook up and you don't tip, and your tip doesn't reflect it, you best believe that every time you order a vodka cran, I am charging you for the cranberry juice.
Getting that cran, the extra 50 cents going on that check.
Oh, girl, it's like $1.25.
Ooh, good. That's even better.
Exactly. I'm petty. I am Petty LaBelle.
And don't get started on DC restaurants that add a button for ice.
Do they really?
Yep. Like, cause they do the specialty ices.
Oh,
So
well, we have the rocks charge as well, which is like, but you also get like a half ounce of extra liquor for it. Anyway, like this is getting really long about us talking about this.
We're ranting.
That's how people get
Sorry,
sick.
I'm not relenting. I'm like completely just blocking my poor husband. So on that note, it was awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, please. When's Sake Bar 2?
Yes, we can do another round of sake. I love it. We can do sake bombs. I was wanting to do that. So
that would be Martin. You know, that's Marcel's jam.
I know. Well, thank you, Marcel, for coming on the show. And then on that note, we're going to say bye-bye.
As always, drink responsibly. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe, please. All recipes should be posted on our website, lockdownlounge.co, so stay tuned. And on that note,
follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We love you guys. Stay safe. Peace.
Lockdown. This is the lockdown.
You want me to get your dad? You don't want me to get dad. Bye, Sophie. Sophie, please leave. All right, guys, sorry. Sophie, come on, mama. I'm trying to finish recording. Sophie. This is going to be a hot mess. Hold on. See, yeah, when I get up, you run. No, it's not funny either. I'm not laughing. Go ahead.